Lloyd Vance joins us to talk a little NFL on the Boardwalk Honda Hotline. Kind enough to join us, contributing editor for the NFL Network. How you been, my friend?
Doing good, Q. Crazy scoring season this season so far.
What the heck is going on with all? What is this, NBA? Is this Major League Baseball with all these trades?
Yeah, you got these new general managers in there, like Howie Roseman, and these guys that are not part of that old school where they're going to keep all their guys there, going to look for talent whenever they can find it. And some of these teams are having fire sales right now, so why not take advantage of it?
Yeah, absolutely. How about the Giants starting to back up the bus here, which is amazing to think when they bought in with a 37-year-old. And listen, we had this debate. We've gone back and forth. We'll see down the road. I was torn between you go running back or you go quarterback, but it hasn't worked out. The offensive line is an absolute flat-out disgrace. And now they're trading off players. You're getting rid of some guys, and a guy like Apple that isn't the best culture guy, even though he's young. Harrison, the move I might not agree with, but financially it makes sense because he was going to be a cap hit regardless in February, March. But it's amazing. That's the reality when you're a 1-6 team. I'm curious, if this team was 3-4, do you think the mindset would have been different?
Definitely. And you can see what Dave Gettleman's doing here. He's saying, you know what? These guys that Jerry Reese left behind are just not getting it done, and he's starting to mold this roster and what he wants to see. Now we'll see if he's able to build it up in the draft coming up in 2019, but this season's not going anywhere fast, and you saw the effort a little bit in Atlanta, but they just had a lackluster season overall, both sides of the football. They paid Nate Solder too much money, and Eli.
Waste. What a waste.
Yeah, Eli deer in the headlights, and they. I think right now he's just trying to make the best of a bad situation. But I don't think they got it wrong with Saquon Barkley. He is a guy they can build around. I know he's not a quarterback, and it's a quarterback-driven league, but he is a player that has star potential. Look, Eli Manning, obviously, but won't be here, though.
No, and they're probably going to cut him or release him, and they'll give him the fairway tour. It's pretty simple. You can say whatever you want if he stays or goes. He's got a no-trade clause. And it doesn't make financial sense. I mean, that's just the bottom line. If you trade him now, a team will take on $6.1 million, $17 million through 2019. Then you're talking about $16 million of dead cap. So it's just not happening. It's unfortunate because Reese really has wrecked the last several years of his career, and I guess I'm a little worried that it's hurting the chances down the road for, say, the Hall of Fame. You don't like to even have that conversation, but at the end of the day, brilliant career, 2-time Super Bowl MVP. How about what do you think with the Raiders? I mean, you're talking about another fire. So, well, let me actually, before we get to the Raiders, I've had this argument with people and this debate about tanking in the NFL. And to me, I think it's a philosophy. But I don't believe there's tanking at all in the NFL because when you do that, like this isn't the NBA, right? So it's difficult, in my estimation, to identify tanking because coaches aren't going to try to lose because losses lead to firings, right? And that's how guys get hurt.
Yeah, Q, they're always going to have maximum effort. We even saw last year with the Cleveland Browns, 0-16, but they still fought to the end, and they were in several of those games. I just think it's just so hard to win in the NFL, and let's face it, there's only 16 weeks of a team season, so they're going to go out there and try to get it done. Yes, after a certain point, if a team has 1 win, 0 wins after about halfway point of the season, they are going to put some lackluster effort, but that's only a partial of their roster. It's not going to be all the teams making concerted effort. So, these guys have some veteran pride. If we can use the Giants as an example. There's still some guys on that roster that want to go out there and get all-pro status or get incentives in their contract.
Sure, because it's on film. It's on film. You can put young players out there that might not be good, but everything else is on film. Like the philosophy in the NBA is you're just going to put guys that are out there that aren't good enough, right? That they're not good enough.
Right, and I'll use an example like one of the Andy Reid's last season in Philadelphia, team that I covered. That team went 3-13, but it was just one bad thing going wrong after another, injuries, and I just don't think guys quit and they're tanking the season. It just kind of is a confluence of events that's come together, and teams kind of fall apart. But I don't think it's a concerted effort to get that number 1 overall pick.
Yeah, and now there's talk that there's a fractured locker room with the Raiders and Gruden and Carr, and he's had to come out on social media that he wasn't crying when he takes a hit. I mean, this kid has really fallen. I mean, when you think about it, we were talking about this kid as a very good young quarterback a couple of years ago. Signed that. They paid him a nice deal, right? They gave Gruden a ridiculous amount of money, correct? $100 million. That's what we're paying you to secure your services as head coach for the next decade, which we know for a fact it's not going to last a couple of years. Your two best players in Mack and Cooper have been traded away. The fan base has grown more impatient with the coach. He's lost the locker room. You're losing the embattled quarterback in Derek Carr. I mean, that's a mess.
It is. I think John Gruden overestimated his hand when he took that 10-year contract. Obviously, Mark Davis, the owner there, gave him that money to turn that franchise around. But there really was not a lot there. And then he didn't help himself trading away Khalil Mack, his best player. And now he's saying, you know what, let me cover my bases and just start cleaning this roster out and try to rebuild through the draft. But is he a guy that can do a good job in the draft? And also he has Reggie McKenzie there, who's entrenched general manager, and you wonder how these two are working together. I still think Gruden's pulling all the strings, and, this team is falling apart very quickly. Derek Carr, as you were saying, had a big contract that they gave him. But I think after that broken leg, he just has not been the same player.
No, he hasn't. You look at the Eagles right now. Trade deadline's right around the corner. They lose Barnett for the season, shoulder injury, so they lose some depth there on the defensive side of the ball. Everyone's talking about running back. Everyone's talking about secondary. I think they have to upgrade the wide receiver. I actually brought this up in the 12 o'clock hour. It wouldn't surprise me with all the nonsense going on in Tampa Bay, and all of a sudden, shocker, Deshaun Jackson's not happy with his role and his fit in that offense. If you're Howie Roseman, why not put in a call to Tampa? You got Terrell Pryor out there as well that was released by the Jets that said he's 100% healthy. I mean, they need an upgrade at the wide receiver position. If you're the Eagles, what's your most pressing need come the trade deadline?
Yeah, I look at wide receiver, I look at secondary, and there are two areas that definitely need help on this team. Still getting beat at 20 yards per play more than most teams in the National Football League. So bringing in Patrick Peterson, who's not happy with the Cardinals, that could be a very good thing for this defense, help shore them up on the back end. And as you're saying, receiver, guys are getting hurt all over the place, so they could use somebody. I just don't know if Tampa's going to do it right now. They're 3-3, and they seem to be in the mix.
Yeah, I mean, well, that's the thing, but you also have to think, you got to think long-term sometimes, right? I think the Raiders are doing that. The Giants are doing that. There are certain teams that are thinking long-term where we're basically just going to rip the Band-Aid off. And I think you walk that fine line because you could have been a team a couple of years ago that won 10, 11 games. You could have been a playoff team, and now all of a sudden, boom. It's amazing. Sometimes the defense carries you, and then you have a couple lean years. And listen, I used this example before. If you look at the Eagles, they're 3-4 right now, Lloyd, right? So the Giants are done. They're dead. You've got the Dallas Cowboys that trade for Amari Cooper that now you're going to see, right? Because now you have a threat. You've got another threat here, a weapon for Dak Prescott. And if you're a Dallas fan, you're thinking this is going to make or break the quarterback because if he still can't figure it out, how do you lock him up long term? Then you've got the Washington Redskins. Cousins, they believe, wasn't the answer. You got Alex Smith. They're playing good football, 4-2. AP looks like he's turned back the clock. And now you have the Eagles. And they're sitting there. That's an inexcusable loss on Sunday. And I don't know if you pinpointed it. I don't know of all the players and the coaches that you speak to throughout the week. But explain to me how this team is 3-4 in this regard. You're up 17-0 at home against a bad Carolina Panthers team. You can't make a defensive stop. You can blame the offense. You can blame the defense. But the message I keep banging home to people is that this is not last year. And I just think all of a sudden the head coach is a little under fire. He's not pulling all the right buttons. He's not pushing all the right buttons. He's not pulling all the right strings. And it's starting to come home the roost right now. And we can talk about lack of talent on both sides of the ball. But the bottom line is at 3-4, I'm not blaming Wentz. I'm going to put a little bit of the criticism on Doug. I'm going to put a little bit of the criticism on Jim Schwartz. And I think it's a collective effort, if you will. But I just can't figure it out. Like 3-4, they're better than a 3-4 record.
They are, and you made a great point there, Q. It's a season-to-season league in the National Football League. We've seen it so many times, teams going from worst to first, and then you see the Eagles make that big jump and they win the championship, the Super Bowl championship everybody's been waiting for in Philadelphia. And, it's a situation where a lot of complacency, I think, has come into the door. May have overestimated their roster, and then the injuries as well. They got to pull it together. They are 3-4, very winnable division that they're in. You did the rundown of the teams. Washington leads it right now, 4-2. They're tied with Dallas. So the Eagles play Dallas in Week 10, and then they play New Orleans in Week 11. So those are 2 weeks that are really going to show us what this team's all about. They have to go to London and get the job done against a Jacksonville team that's also very desperate. Blake Bortles not playing very well, got benched. The Eagles are going to have to get after him, get a win, and then kind of regroup from there. But as you're saying, a lot of things to fix on this team. Yes, maybe they can make a trade here or there, but they have to be able to run the football with some efficiency and close out games.
Yeah, well, you would think so, right? I just look at this team and I'm just wondering, at the end of the day, like, when is that light going to go off? Like, when are they going to start to play with a little bit of sense of urgency? And I just haven't seen it.
Yeah, it's on them. And they can no longer puff their chests out and say they're Super Bowl champs. No one cares about last year. And they're going to have to go out there and prove it on the field once again. Maybe Wentz is starting to come into form with that knee. He seems to be playing a little bit better, but somebody else has really got to step up offensively. And then defensively, that secondary and in terms of getting turnovers, they have to get that in a more timely manner. Because last year it just seemed like they always got the turnover when everything mattered in the game, and right now they're just not getting it.
Right now, two best teams in the NFL, Kansas City and the Rams. I mean, are they clear-cut? Have they kind of acquired that niche in your eyes where they are the most complete teams, even though we know Kansas City sometimes defensively they have lapses, but they can score just like the Rams?
Well, those two teams are right up there, and they're going to play Week 11 in Mexico City, and everybody's looking forward to that. But also, don't forget about the New England Patriots. And nobody likes the evil empire, but they showed against Kansas City Chiefs that they can find a team's weakness and find ways to win a game. So those three teams are really up there, and I'll put in the New Orleans Saints as well, a team that seems to come back. They've won 5 games in a row after losing in Week 1, and Drew Brees is playing at an MVP level.
All right. Plenty more to get into. We got the trade deadline right around the corner. We got a good slate of games this week. Always appreciate a couple moments. I mean, who knows who's going to get traded? It's almost as though you almost get the sense that no players are untouchable with some of these teams, but we'll see how it plays out. I always appreciate a couple moments, pal.
All right, Q. Thanks for having me on.
All right, be well. Lloyd Vance joining us for a couple moments. Does a good job taking it to the house and, of course, contributing editor for the NFL Network.